All right, what is going on, everybody? Today is the last day of the trade deadline in the NBA. We had some big trades go down yesterday. We had some small trades go down yesterday, and I hope we have some trades go down today, some larger ones. There are a lot that have been going on that are small and around the edges, and we will touch on those. But the big ones are Brandon Ingram is now a Toronto Raptor, and Jimmy Butler is a Golden State Warrior, and Andrew Wiggins is a Miami Heat. We're going to talk about all that and get into the nitty gritty and the details. If you like what I have to say, like the video. If you have any opinions, comment them down below. And if you just like the vibes, consider subscribing. All right. So when the news broke yesterday that Jimmy Butler was going to be a Golden State Warrior and Andrew Wiggins is going to the Miami Heat. There were a lot of moving parts. There were a lot of teams involved. I'm literally just going to read off of Sham's Twitter and just go through the timeline for you guys. Um, but the funniest thing that happened was the Heat were playing a game. Obviously, Jimmy Butler, not with the team, was suspended. Um, and one of the fans leans over to the Heat bench and tells the Heat, the other Heat players that are there, Jimmy Butler just got traded for X, Y, and Z. And the Heat players are just looking at him like, huh? Like they're just so confused and they're just intentively listening. They're like, okay, yeah, and we got, yeah, It was just hilarious. I've never seen that before. Um, let's get into the details of this Jimmy Butler trade. Right off the top here. So, the news broke about 15 hours ago that the Miami Heat are finalizing a deal to send Jimmy Butler to the Golden State Warriors for Andrew Wiggins, Dennis Schroeder, and Kyle Anderson and a protected first round pick. Um, and then Shams clarifies as a part of the deal, Warriors are sending Lindsey Waters and Heat's Josh Richardson to Detroit. And then the other news broke that Jimmy had agreed to a new 2-year, $121 million extension through 2026-2027 with the Warriors, per Brian Windhorst and Shams. He declined his player option, and it will be a brand new deal. And then some more details came out that Dennis Schroeder is heading to Utah and Kyle Anderson is going to Toronto as a part of a multi-team trade. This is alongside the Jimmy Butler trade. But then we get that another player is headed to Miami in PJ Tucker, who was traded to Utah by the Clippers a couple days ago just to get off his money and get him somewhere else. Um, and then this is a long line of stuff going on here, so follow me, please. Um, the Toronto portion of the deal fell through, so Kyle Anderson is going to stay with the team or be moved. Um, they were going to try to work something out with Toronto. It didn't happen. Um, and then I believe that was it for the night. Um, Miami ended up keeping both Wiggins, Tucker, and Anderson. And of course, they got their pick from the Warriors. And then this morning, early this morning, Toronto is trading Davion Mitchell to Miami for PJ Tucker. So PJ Tucker has been on the 3 teams in the past 24 hours, or 72 hours or whatever. He's been on the Clippers. He's been in Utah. He's been in he's been in Miami. And now he's in Toronto, who he also played for. So a bit of a reunion. Um, we're gonna touch on that in a minute, but that was the whole timeline of Jimmy Butler ending up in Golden State and Andrew Wiggins ending up in Miami. Now, I just want to, when these trades happen, I just want to kind of go through how we got to this point um, with said players in said trade. Obviously, there's the Jimmy Butler component of this, which is at some point last year, he felt very offended by what Pat Riley said when the Heat were in the playoffs playing Celtics, I believe, or whoever they were playing. I'm paraphrasing here. Pat Riley said, essentially, shut up. You're not playing right now because Jimmy Butler was out. And Jimmy Butler had said, if I was playing, we wouldn't be down 2-0, 3-0, whatever they were at the time. And Pat Riley didn't like that. Pat Riley is the head of basketball operations over in Miami. So that was the beginning of their fractured relationship. And Jimmy Butler's nonsense going on this year, in particular, being late to team practices, being late to team flights, doing all this on purpose to get traded. And I don't want to say he drove his value down, but just to get two players in a first round pick is probably not what you want for a guy Jimmy Butler's caliber. Jimmy Butler is a 6-time All Star, 5-time All NBA, 5-time All Defensive. He was the 2022-23 Eastern Conference Finals MVP and the 2020-22 Steals champ. Career averages of 18 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, around a 33% three-point shooter, a 47% field goal shooter. It's mid-range layups, dunks, all that stuff. And his free throws, 84. So not the type of value you want for a guy in Jimmy Butler, but nevertheless, the Heat do get a guy in Andrew Wiggins who was a one-time All-Star, and is a champion in 2022. He is a fair bit younger than Jimmy. Yeah, he's about 6 years younger than Jimmy Butler. We'll get to the Heat side of this. I will get to the Heat side of this in the current day. I want to spin the clock back a little bit and talk about Jimmy Butler's time in Miami. He arrived in Miami after Philadelphia signed Tobias Harris over him in the offseason. That was 2019-2020. His best year with the team. Pull it up here in a second. His best year with the team, they finished 53-29 on the season. That is spectacular, especially for a Heat team that was notorious for getting out to slow starts. They made the finals 2 times in the Jimmy Butler era. They made the conference finals once, and they lost in the first round twice. These years with Jimmy Butler, I don't think can be understated enough that he took this team over when the Dwayne Wade era was ending. Dwayne Wade, one of the most prolific, most loyal people to the Heat. If you don't know, um, he is considered Mr. Heat, like he is the guy. I'm talking about Dwayne Wade. And when he retired, Jimmy Butler sort of took the mantle over, and I would say it kept this team above water when previously they had struck out on so many big names in previous years. They had struck out on Kevin Durant when Kevin Durant before he went to the Warriors. They had struck out on Kawhi Leonard. They had struck out on most recently Damian Lillard. He ended up on the Bucks, and Jimmy Butler was really here through the rough years. I mean, he played 6 years for the team. In his time there, he was a 21-point scorer, a 5%, geez, 5.7 assist guy, almost 2 steals a game. Turnovers aren't the best, almost 2 turnovers. His overall field goal percentage stood at almost 50%, and his 3-point percentage at 30. Not the best time shooting in Miami, but at moments he took big threes and he made them. And he took this team again to relevancy. In his time with the Miami, he had his career high in steals, 2.1. That was in 2020, 2021. He was a two-time All-Star in Miami as well, and yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because I think it's important because I know when in the moment when a guy gets traded, when it's long and drawn out like the Jimmy Butler saga, um, fans become annoyed and they become disillusioned and they're like, "Oh, I hate this guy. He's ruining the team. He's ruining the chemistry, this and that." And I also want to say that Jimmy Butler, for all that he is, for all the bad rep that he got when he was in Chicago, in Minnesota, in Philly, and then finally ending up in Miami, where he was a bit of an asshole. He was rough. He was tough on the young guys. The one good case that worked out for him was Tyler Hero on the Heat. Tyler Hero, um, I don't want to say was the Jimmy Butler project, but he was probably the most successful rookie to all star in Jimmy Butler's career. I'm not saying Jimmy Butler made Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero put in his own work and made his own name. He was the first pick, and he was a 13th pick in the first round in 2019. So this was right in the smack middle of um, the Jimmy Butler era, and I think I think Jimmy really helped create this version of Tyler Hero, and Tyler Hero is primed and ready to take over this Miami Heat team alongside Bam, who's been there for a while. Obviously, Andrew Wiggins, the new addition, and we'll see where this era of Heat basketball goes. Um, but I think it's important to what's the word to remember the good times these players had with the team, especially again if it ends in with a bad taste in your mouth in Jimmy Butler's case. Um, I also want to talk about Andrew Wiggins' time as a Golden State Warrior. The Andrew Wiggins era in Golden State um, was an amazing time. He made his first All Star game as a Warrior. I read out his other accolades earlier. He got there in 2019, 2020 at the trade deadline. And his best year with the team was 23 and 29, and they were the NBA champs that year. They were the champs. Um, I think Golden State showed that you top picks are always looked at to be the guy. And I think one of the most rewarding things, obviously, is to do it and win the championship for the team that drafted you as the guy. But another great thing is to be vindicated and go to another team and play a role, play a huge role for this Golden State team that year, and provide a service and rejuvenate your career and become an all star. And, you know, I think that stuff's important. In Andrew Wiggins' time with the Warriors, um, he was a 16-point per game scorer, a 2.2 assist guy, almost 5 rebounds a game. Uh, he shot his best at almost 40% with the Warriors from 3 point range, and his overall field goal was 46. That is a huge improvement. He spent the same amount of years in Minnesota, his previous team, with the Warriors, his most recent team, 6 years. He improved drastically. I mean, his points went down, obviously, but to be vindicated and play a role on a championship team, to play with an even tougher guy in the locker room in Draymond Green, um, when Jimmy Butler was with Andrew Wiggins in Minnesota in the mid to late 2010s, Andrew Wiggins was looked at as like a soft guy, like he can't win you a championship. He's not even an NBA player. And to win a championship with Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and all that stuff like Andrew Wiggins did is incredible. And his service was amazing for the Warriors, and I think he's gonna have a great. What is he? He's 29. If anything, he spends the rest of his career with the uh the Heat, because the Heat is just such a well run organization. And maybe if he does play good, he gets tossed into another trade for a star guy. But I think him in Minnesota is perfect. And not Minnesota, in Miami, pardon me, is perfect for Andrew. I think he needs those systems where there's structure, there's culture, and there's already guys there who alleviate some of the stress of being in the spotlight, of being the guy. Because Andrew Wiggins, there's no shame in being just another guy. Um, let's talk about the Jimmy Butler in Golden State factor of this. Um, the Warriors currently are standing at 25-25 at the recording of this video. Um, they're not doing too hot. I speculated yesterday that the Warriors were looking at uh, Kevin Durant. They were poking around the Kevin Durant situation in Phoenix, seeing if they could reunite with him. And as I said that, and as I saw that report, and I uploaded that video later in the day, more and more stories kept coming out as it came up to game time for the games that were happening that night, that Kevin Durant never demanded a trade. Kevin Durant does not want to reunite in Golden State. Kevin Durant wants to remain a Phoenix Sun. Um, and these conversations supposedly that the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors were having were preliminary, were just very bare bones. It really there really wasn't any meat to it, and the Warriors quickly pivoted from that conversation and from that um, situation back to the Jimmy Butler situation, because the Jimmy Butler situation had all but stalled because the Warriors didn't know. More specifically, it came out that Steve Kerr and Steph Curry didn't know how Jimmy Butler would fit in this locker room per se. Um, I think that's still a big question. But the other factor was that it was reported earlier, about a week or two ago, that Jimmy Butler would not be given a new deal, would not be given anything past this year from the Warriors. This was a couple weeks ago. And obviously, that all had changed. Something had changed. There had been conversations that Jimmy Butler is going to fit in this locker room, and he's going to fit on this team for at least the next 2 years. And I I have my own questions. I think a team with Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green is such an interesting team because they're both such hotheads, and I think the defense is going to improve drastically. Obviously, um, I don't know who your starting true guard is at the moment. I could look into that right now, real quick. Um, but I think I think this recovers your season. I don't think this some people are going overboard and saying this team puts them in championship contention. I don't think that's the case. I think I think Jimmy Butler is going to go on the warpath, and he is going to try to show everybody that he is still Jimmy Butler and that he is still the guy at 35 years old. And granted, this team, the top three players on the top three, I should say, the most important players on this team are all in the mid 30s. Steph Curry's 36, Draymond Green's 34. So the window is, I think the Jimmy Butler contract is indicative of the timeline that the Warriors are on, and they said they told this is a nod to Steph that the rebuild is over. We are going to try to get you more help. Um, the 2 year window that we have now with Jimmy Butler is the window now, and I think that's all that Steph Curry needed to hear. That they weren't trying to keep some of the young guys, but still compete and this and that because it obviously wasn't working. And to the Warriors' credit, they've kept Moses Moody, a 22-year-old shooting guard. They've kept Jonathan Kuminga, a 22-year-old power forward, who probably is not going to stay with the Warriors, because his deal is up. He needs a new deal. Um, the Warriors still have Buddy Hield. They still have Gary Payton, and they still have Brandon Podziemski. Um, the center positions has been up and down for them. They've started Trace Jackson Davis. They've started Kevon Looney. They've started Quentin Post. Sometimes has been really good for them the past few games. Um, but I think Jimmy brings more alleviation that Steph doesn't have to do it by himself every night. Because some nights it just looked really bad. It looked really bad for Steph. He was just throwing shots up more than usual. Like it was just a hope and a prayer that it was going in. Um, but I think what you get in Jimmy Butler and what you get not signing him to a long term deal but only getting him for 2 more years is smart because after if starts to become a problem, he's an asset. He's on a 1 year deal. This and that. After next year, he's on a 1 year deal, so you could trade him again if he really becomes a problem. I don't think it's gonna be a problem. I think him, Draymond Green. I think they played on an Olympic team together at some point. I think that was the Rio Games way back. So they do have some familiarity with each other. And I think Jimmy's excited to be there. He already posted on his Instagram. He already did all that stuff. I think he's excited to be there. I think he's going to try to fit in, but also bring his own personality. Anyways, that's enough rambling about Jimmy Butler. Um, let's move on to the other biggest deal, and then actually let's do some small deals here, right in the middle of this. This came down yesterday from Shams Charania from ESPN. The Wizards are trading Jonas Valanciunas to the Sacramento Kings for City Sudoku and 2 second-round picks. Um, Jonas Valanciunas linking up with his Lithuanian brother in Domantas Sabonis to play for the Kings. Very cool. That's a lot more center depth for them. He can stretch the floor a little bit. Pretty basic stuff. Just like I said, around the edges trades. Other news that came down yesterday from ESPN and from Shams Charania. Bulls guard Lonzo Ball has agreed to a 2 year, $20 million extension. I also want to clarify something about the Bulls. I did not realize that the Bulls were literally just going for a tank job. They're literally going to try to tank, um, and they're going to try to get a good pick this year. Obviously, me saying this is is obviously me saying Lonzo Ball is gonna has signed a 2 year deal is is indicative of them tanking, but I realized that after I'd made that video the other day that they are trying to tank. And I guess Lonzo has had a resurgence, and I think he's gonna be here for the beginning of the tank. He is an asset at this point if he remains healthy, and the 2 year deal is very lucrative for both sides. I think it's security for Lonzo, and it's an asset for the Bulls if he remains healthy. The Bulls are sitting at the eighth pick right now in the mock drafts. Could they move up to to get one of the Rutgers guys? Could they move up even to get Cooper Flag at the number 1 pick? I have no idea. I think here's my idea. Here's my thought. Thinking about the Bulls doing a tank is that they still have Nikola Vucevic, who is a asset. Um, as of recording, he is still on the team. They have Lonzo Ball. Could they make a move in the offseason, draft night, to move up to one of these top three picks? I think yes. Um, that's what I would try to do. I would keep both Lonzo and Vooch for now. Let them ride out the rest of the season with the young guys you have on this team, and maybe try to wiggle your way into a top three pick if you can with those assets. Um, the other big one that happened last night um, was the Los Angeles Lakers traded Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, and the 2031 first round pick, and that was one that everybody was talking about. That the Lakers have been coveting for a while now, and a 2030 pick swap to the Charlotte Hornets for Mark Williams. Um, I've been singing Dalton Connect's praise these past couple videos that I've been talking about the Lakers. Um, and to see him just get shipped off in a random trade. Not to say that Mark Williams isn't a player that the Lakers need, but man, I was so high on Dalton Connect on this Lakers team being around Luca and LeBron, and he had some great games for this Lakers team. And I hope he plays well in Charlotte. For those who do not know, Mark Williams, um, he was a first round pick in the 2020. He was a first round pick in the 2022 draft, the 15th pick. Um, he's been in the league 2 years. He's 7 foot. On here he says he's 7 foot. I think he's 7'2" now. But he's a big rebounder. He's having a breakout year this year. 15 points is the most he's averaged in his career. 1 block. Um, Almost 10 rebounds. This is all this year. Um, his 3-point percentage is not there. He does not take them, but that's not what you need around LeBron and Luca right now. This is literally just a a band-aid for their more pressing um, center problem, but I think this is a phenomenal pickup for them. Luca is the type of guy to make regular centers not average, just above average centers to average centers look incredible, and LeBron has been doing that for years also. Um, but yeah, great pickup for the Lakers. A steal of a deal. Rob Pelinka is cooking. He's cooking. And the last thing to note that came down this morning was that Chet Holmgren is returning from injury Friday against the Toronto Raptors in OKC. Um, Basically, not even the OKC didn't even have to do a deal. They're getting they're getting their starting center back. Um, and the last thing that I have on the docket for this video, this is might be a two-part video, a two-parter, because trade deadline, the actual what is it called? The cutoff is in a few hours. We'll see what happens in those few hours after I upload this video. Um, Watch part two. I'll link it in the top right corner, as always. Just click that; it will take you to that. If there are any big deals, if there aren't any big deals, we'll just talk about them on Friday. But the Jimmy Butler one was really the big deal, and one that came out from left field. Just there has been talks about years and about past 2 3 years of trading this guy. Like I said at the top, Brandon Ingram is a Toronto Raptor. Um, he was traded to the Toronto Raptors for Bruce Brown Jr., Kelly Kelly Olynyk, and a first round pick and 1 second round pick. Um, Brandon Ingram, I like Brandon Ingram as a player. I think he's been okay in New Orleans. I don't want to say he didn't want to be in New Orleans, but I just think the New Orleans thing has ran its course. I mean, he was a first time All Star with New Orleans, career averages of 23 points, um, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, um, above 80% free throw shooter. His 3 pointer, 37% as a Pelican. Um, this is the longest. Um, this is the longest time he's been with the team, and now he's on his third team. Um, this is an interesting deal because Brandon Ingram is on the last year of his deal. Um, and it'd be interesting to see if he wants to stay in Toronto because Toronto's always a place where either you love it or you hate it. Um, I think he fits well though with this Raptors team currently. Does he want to stay on this team in the long term? I have no idea. But I think the important thing to note is that I think the the Raptors are gonna try to work their magic again and try to keep him for the long term. I mean, they have a pretty young team here. I mean, Brandon Ingram is on the other side of 20. He's 27, but you got young guys like Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, um, Emmanuel Quickly, all on big deals, mega deals. So that might make it a little awkward to try to give Brandon what he wants, money wise, because those other young guys are on big deals. But I think he fits in well. I I think I think I think this Toronto Raptors team has always tried to run weird lineups, and Brandon Ingram fits that in spades. I mean, the Raptors only have uh, two guys on their team under 6'5", so they run very big at times. Um, and I think Brandon's gonna fit that mold. I think as Scotty Barnes evolves even more, obviously Scotty can have big games, but I think Brandon more so is a scoring guy. Um, it might interfere with what Emmanuel quickly wants to do and what RJ Barrett wants to do, but I think they're going to look to him as the guy, if they can keep him past this year. Um, to quickly just go into some things, um, for Brandon Ingram's time in New Orleans. He arrived there in the 2019-2020 season, and his best year with the team was 2023-2024. They finished the season 49-33. Um, and that this really just leaves the Pelicans, because DeJounte Murray, I don't even think I said it on here. DeJounte Murray tore his Achilles. He's out for the rest of the season. Um, they're really just left with Zion, Herb Jones, and what's the oh my god, I always forget the other guy's name. What's the other guy's name? Trey Murphy. Um, is this is this a sign that they're gonna hit the reboot button, the restart button, and trade Zion in the offseason? I don't know. But what I do know is that Brandon Ingram, DeJounte Murray, and Zion Williamson never played a game together, all three of them. Um, and I think that's a shame because this team had promise last year, um, or the year I just read you that they had their best year 2 years ago at this point. Or no, last year, yeah, last year, last year, right? Yeah, last year, yeah, that was the best year. Um, but yeah, it's just a mess over in New Orleans. And I'm happy Brandon Ingram's gotten out of there. Um, I think the Pelicans, speaking from the Pelicans side, should really just try to go all in on the Zion side of things. Try to really put a roster around him that fits him because Brandon and him never worked out, and um, the culmination of players they've had around Zion really hasn't worked out. And I think Zion deserves a fair shot before they trade him, before they get rid of him to try to put a team around him. Like, you don't want this to end up like a LeBron Cavaliers situation where he leaves and he's already good, but he's on a better team. So he's obviously going to look better, and the team's going to look better. I think you want to try to give it a fair shot. Do everything in your power to try to make this team a winning team and have some security for the Zion spot. That means bringing in another guy, another All Star, who fits with Zion. That is a must. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I would talk about the games from last night, but it's trade deadline day, baby, and I think that's more important. Again, there might be a part 2 to this video, so be on the lookout for that. If there's not, I will see you guys tomorrow, Friday. All right, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Cheers.